Welcome back to our channel, where true horror stories come to life. Tonight, I want to take you into one of the most unsettling stories ever told by a taxi driver from Singapore. A story that has gone viral across the internet, whispered in forums and retold in hushed tones among night drivers. This isn't fiction. It's a chilling account from someone who had no reason to lie. A man who, since that night, has refused to drive past midnight ever again. His name is Mr. Tan. Not his real name, but the story he shared has been verified by several others who've experienced similar things. If you're watching this alone at night, I suggest you check the back seat of your room, just in case. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Because what happened that night still haunts the streets of Singapore. The night was thick with heat, the kind that sticks to your skin and makes the city feel heavier than usual. It was already past 1:15 a.m. and Mr. Tan's taxi was parked near Changi, under the faint glow of a street lamp. The roads were nearly empty, just the occasional distant sound of an airplane overhead and the low buzz of cicadas in the dark. Mr. Tan had been driving for hours. His back ached and his eyes were heavy, but he hoped for one last passenger before heading home. He switched off the engine to save fuel and leaned back in his seat. The dashboard clock blinked 1:18. For a moment, everything was still. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. Then, movement. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught the shape of a figure standing by the side of the road. A woman, tall, slim, dressed in white. Her long black hair hung low, and she stood perfectly still under the flickering light. Mr. Tan's heart skipped a beat. He blinked, unsure if his tired mind was playing tricks on him. But no, she was real. She raised her arm slowly and signaled for a taxi. Something about her presence felt heavy. But still, Mr. Tan reached for the meter, started the engine, and pulled toward her. As Mr. Tan rolled to a stop, the woman approached his taxi in complete silence. Her steps were soundless, as if the ground itself refused to echo her presence. She opened the back door gently and slid into the seat without a word. The air inside the car felt suddenly colder. Mr. Tan glanced at the rearview mirror. She was sitting upright, hands neatly folded on her lap, eyes staring forward. "Lorong Halus," she said softly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "Please." Mr. Tan hesitated. That name sent a chill down his spine. Lorong Halus, the old cemetery road. At this hour, he thought. But he didn't ask questions. Professionalism, or maybe fear, kept his mouth shut. He nodded silently, shifted the gear, and began driving. Outside, the street lamps seemed dimmer than usual. The silence grew thicker, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Mr. Tan tried to stay focused on the road, but something felt off. The headlights lit the empty road ahead, but the back seat behind him felt heavier than it should. He adjusted the mirror again, just slightly. The woman hadn't moved at all. Not a blink, not a breath, nothing. The taxi rolled quietly through the dimly lit streets, its engine the only sound breaking the stillness of the night. Mr. Tan kept his eyes on the road, but his mind was racing. Something felt wrong, very wrong. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 1:26 a.m. Only a few minutes had passed, but it felt like time was dragging. The woman hadn't made a sound since they left. No cough, no rustle of clothing, not even the sound of breathing. Mr. Tan adjusted his mirror slightly again. She was still sitting there, completely motionless, as if she were made of wax. He tried to brush it off. Maybe she's just tired, he muttered to himself, or maybe drunk. But then he noticed something strange. The rearview mirror, which normally reflected the back seat, wasn't showing her face clearly. The image was faint, blurred, like static on an old television. He blinked, leaned forward slightly to fix the angle. But the moment he looked directly at the back seat through the mirror, the reflection cleared. "I'm imagining things," he whispered. "I need sleep." The road ahead grew narrower, darker. They were leaving the city lights behind, heading into an area few people traveled at this hour. Trees lined both sides of the road now, tall, unmoving, like silent witnesses to something they weren't meant to see. Mr. Tan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. The air inside the car felt heavier, thicker, as if the atmosphere itself was pushing down on him. He tried to distract himself by turning on the radio, but the moment he pressed the power button, static, just static. He flipped through stations one by one, nothing, no music, no voices, just noise. That's when he felt it, a sudden piercing chill down his spine, like ice crawling beneath his skin. And then, her voice. "You don't need to be afraid," she said, still calm, still soft, as if she could read his thoughts. Mr. Tan's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't said anything. He hadn't even looked at her, but somehow she knew. He gripped the wheel tighter and kept his eyes forward. "Just a few more minutes," he told himself. "Get to the destination, then it's over." The road twisted and narrowed into a barely lit path. No signs, no houses, just a cracked asphalt lane swallowed by trees. Mr. Tan felt his heartbeat in his ears. He didn't recognize this area, even after 2 decades of driving. His headlights pierced through the mist that had suddenly formed across the road, making everything look surreal. The woman in the back remained silent, still, unmoving, like a statue left behind in a forgotten place. Then finally, through the fog, Mr. Tan saw the end of the road, a dead end, a clearing surrounded by old trees. In the middle stood a rusted gate, half buried in weeds. Behind it, headstones, dozens of them, some broken, some barely standing. His breath froze. This was no neighborhood. This was the old cemetery. He stopped the car, his hands trembling on the wheel. "We've arrived, miss," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. No response. Mr. Tan slowly turned his head, expecting to see the woman's pale face behind him. But there was nothing. The back seat was completely empty. The door hadn't opened. There was no sound, no movement, just emptiness. For a moment he froze. Maybe she crashed down, hiding. He leaned over the seat to check. Still nothing. He got out of the car, walked around it, opened the back door. No one, no bag, no footprints, just silence. The only sound was the creaking of the rusted cemetery gate, swinging slightly in the wind. Mr. Tan stood there, his breath shallow, his chest tight. He wasn't just scared, he was paralyzed. It felt like something was watching him, from the trees, from the graves, from behind. He didn't wait to find out. He slammed the door shut, jumped into the driver's seat, and sped away, tires screeching on the gravel. Mr. Tan drove without thinking, his hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His breath came in short gasps. His heart pounded against his ribs like it was trying to escape his chest. Every time he glanced at the rearview mirror, he braced himself, half expecting her to be there again. But the back seat remained empty, still, as if no one had ever been there. After several minutes, he pulled over into a brightly lit gas station. He needed light, people, anything real. He stepped out of the car, legs trembling, sweat pouring down his face, despite the cool night. A station attendant noticed him and asked if he was okay. Mr. Tan tried to speak, but no words came out. Instead, he sat down on the curb, head in his hands, trying to steady his breath. He stayed like that for almost 20 minutes, staring at the pavement, replaying every second in his mind. Eventually, when he was able to speak, he told the attendant something vague. Just a bad passenger. That's all. Mr. Tan didn't go home right away that night. He drove aimlessly through the city for almost an hour, unwilling to be alone in the silence of his apartment. Eventually, he parked in a 24-hour food court and sat among strangers, sipping coffee he barely touched. The image of the woman, her voice, her stillness, the empty seat, looped in his mind like a broken tape. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he returned the cab to the company lot and went straight to the driver's lounge. He looked pale, quiet. A fellow driver noticed him and asked, "Long shift?" Mr. Tan hesitated, then told him everything. When he finished, the room went silent. Then, one of the older drivers, Mr. Lim, nodded slowly and said, "You saw her too." Others began sharing similar stories. Different nights, same description. A woman in white, always quiet, always asking for Lorong Halus. Mr. Tan never picked up another passenger after midnight again. Not once. He changed his routine, refusing all late-night calls, no matter how good the fare was. "It's not worth it," he once said. "No amount of money is worth losing your mind." He tried to rationalize it afterward. Maybe it was a hallucination, a dream, sleep deprivation. But no matter how many times he replayed that night in his head, one thing remained crystal clear. She was real. Not in the way we understand reality, but in a way that leaves a mark, a shadow. Sometimes Mr. Tan would see white dresses in the distance and freeze, only to realize it was laundry or a mannequin. But the chill down his spine always returned. Over time, he stopped talking about it, not because he forgot, but because he knew people wouldn't believe him. But every now and then, late at night, when he drives past a quiet road or stops at a red light in the dark, he wonders, what if she appears again? Would he run? Would he speak to her? Or would he just let her in? There are things on this earth that cannot be explained, encounters that defy logic. Some say she's a spirit trapped between worlds. Others believe she's a warning, a test for the living. Whatever she is, one thing is certain. She doesn't ride just any taxi. She chooses. So if one night you're driving alone or riding alone, and a pale woman in white asks to go to Lorong Halus, what will you do? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy true horror stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell.